going back to the meditation thing and really feeling the certain way, I actually think this is why many tribes and in ancient civilizations you used to have rituals, initiation rituals when you were, I don't know, 18 to 20 or maybe 16, whatever age it was, to feel like you are a man coming out and on your purpose, or a ritual before you do something, a ritual to get married, a ritual to whatever it could be. I think these rituals that tribes often have, they're really powerful. And they're powerful because they elicit an emotional change in you. I mean, you're going to do something for the first time. People are around you. They are saying or affirming certain beliefs to you, right? Like you are ready. You are now a man on, protecting the tribe, protecting the people, protecting the women, the children. And so they almost start to play into that character per se. And that is effective. And it is proven to be effective in those tribes. They wouldn't do it if it didn't have some purpose, if it didn't practically have some purpose. And you know this because if it wasn't useful, those tribes would have died off. But the succeeding tribes, the ones we have, going on, those succeeding tribes are the ones that really utilize that power in the rituals. And
wonderful point. Yeah.
I think having your own rituals, devising your own rituals, maybe in a friend group, maybe it could be by yourself if you don't have any friends, whatever it could be. I think that's really powerful. And relating it to, okay, tribes did this as well. We have done this for so long. Why is this forgotten now? It's like we're demonizing belief. And I actually argue that it's more powerful now. And the reason it's more powerful now is now you logically know the purpose. You logically know the scientific reason. You logically know that it's, at the end of the day, nothing's true. It's coming from a reality that is subjective, that is, there's no base to it. So you can build your own foundational set of beliefs. Now that we know this, you won't fall into the trap of perhaps an ideology or a cult. It's sort of why the cults do this as well, this initiation or whatever you might call it. You won't fall into that trap because you know it's fake. So you can use it to how you want to use it.
Do you think, like, I guess a two-part question. One, do you think like the modern equivalent of this is sort of missing in Western society? And two, with respect to you personally, but even more broadly speaking, do you think there's a sort of like a nostalgia or like a sort of like a wanting to sort of reinterject this sort of feeling because of a sense of lostness and despair and like, and I suppose that sort of picks up on like the thematic patterns of what's happening with COVID and all that, with people clinging on to like a certain like I'm a pro-vax versus an anti-vax, and there's all this chaos coming out of that, where it seems like there's a general angst in the public that people have, especially in these sort of pandemic eras. But I guess that those are just to repeat those questions succinctly, right? So one, do you think like that's missing in the West? Again, very short. And two, do you personally or broadly speaking, do you have any sense of nostalgia about that kind of thing?
I think it's missing, but we have signs of it. But it's just really ineffectively done. For example,
right,
you finish high school, university, you graduate from university.
That's fine. I was going to use this example too, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
And you get 10 seconds of fame as you walk across the podium and shake the hand of the dude.
Dude, I literally have my 10 seconds recorded too.
Oh, nice. Same here, actually.
Yeah.
So you get those 10 seconds of fame, you get one photo, and then you ushered off. The thing is, in these big communities, you don't have attention. you know that you're just another person out of so many,
Right.
and you don't feel it. They don't make you feel that inspiration or like, wow, you did this. You spent all these years achieving this. You don't feel really. You're just like, oh yeah, I got my
Yeah.
degree. Cool. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
ha ha. And your friends are reinforcing this too, right? You aren't just like, at my graduation, I wasn't like, holy shit, man, like I'm ready. I'm self-ready for now. I was not like that.
Dude, honestly, we could do a whole podcast on this subject alone. I'm not even kidding you. Like, I've got a lot to say about this, but yeah, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, we will definitely have the podcast in university sometime for sure. But the ceremony, well, here's one of the flaws. It's big, and we know that people thrive in small communities where they feel purpose and inclusion, and they know the people in their community, and what people say in the community kind of matters to them. And so in this big auditorium where you're graduating, this ceremony is just not sufficient. It's not sufficient to elicit that emotional change. And your peers are also not feeling that too. And so you aren't feeling it because if other people aren't feeling it, it's unlikely, or you're going to start to mirror your peers as well. And that's a really big issue, not just university, but, throughout, lots of different things. As we get older, we just don't have the real emotional part of it. I would say maybe weddings is an exception. I'm not married. I don't know. I haven't been to a marriage. I'm kind of guessing that marriage is probably something where you do feel it because you have sort of created or decided how are you going to get married, who you're going to get married to, your friends are there, your family's there, it's small. But then again, everyone gets divorced, so I don't know. I'm not married. Maybe it could be better, but I think marriage is maybe somewhere where it's slightly more useful. Yeah.
Yeah, I would make one caveat on what you said, by the way. My only disagreement is in my graduation ceremony. There was it's actually incredibly how this syncs with our conversation all up anyway. I agree with you with your basic sentiments, but the caveat is there was some exceptions, and guess every time I saw who the exceptions was, it was the quote unquote minorities. It was, for example, Samoan choirs, Fijians, Tongans, like they made the massive deal out of their son or daughters.
Yeah, I had that too. I saw that
graduation. And I was absolutely blown away by their enthusiasm, by their support.
Yeah.
By the way that they were singing and happy. And you could tell also, it wasn't just the random choirs just standing up and singing along. It was also with the person on stage, and they really felt it.
Yeah, you feel it, right?
Yeah, they really they really felt that, and I was just like, wow. There's as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, there's definitely something missing in my culture, and if there's a such thing as white culture, even if there is, right? There's definitely something missing here where we're kind of like actually goes back to also our conversation about reason and so forth, where we're kind of like, I saw it after the ceremony and before, and during and before as well, where we're kind of like, we're accustomed to taking a step back and not really emotionally expressing ourselves and exploding with power and enthusiasm. Even maybe even the way that like the difference, I don't know if this counts really, but even the way like the music band was playing versus the choirs, right? There's very different kind of refinement. Where I think that happens with this mainstream culture in general, where there's this kind of like hesitancy and reluctancy, and you kind of put someone else before yourself. But it's like, this is your moment, man. This is your graduation. This is your ceremony. And I would have loved to see, especially like the guys I know, like yourself and so many of our other mutual friends, if they had this type of ceremony you're talking about, and what we're using just as again, I'm not saying what minorities are doing is perfect or whatever, but it was just so endearing. It was so like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that too. We had
I would love to see this support for men, especially as well, for men who don't feel that. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. We had a choir, or Samoan group that was singing for one or two people, and the like positivity, the emotion, how everyone's faces lit up, not just on standing there, but like even in the crowd of the people seated, we all felt like a lot of emotion for that. And I can't imagine how it must have felt for the guy that was be
Right.
there to
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
because I suppose for the Samoan families or Pacific, it's quite rare to go to university and graduate. The percentage is a lot less, and so it was
Right,
really a big moment for that family, and I think it should be a big moment for anybody.
right.
And we need to start realizing that insignificant moments in our lives aren't so insignificant. They are significant. Who is
Mm,
deciding that they aren't worth being significant? Like, we go through so many things. Why is it that we can only, maybe feel something, some significance on a day that is defined, like a birthday, a graduation day, and even then, it's not really. We're half-assing it, right? But
mm,
we should be feeling that significance and make those moments more memorable, more purposeful, more perhaps spiritual, uh,
mm,
to elicit that emotional change. And I think people's mental health will be better from it. People will feel better about themselves, and people will feel more purpose because they will get purpose from the milestones in their lives.
mm.
Yeah.
I think that's very well said. 100% agree. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your second question? I forgot it.
Yeah, just whether I think you really answered it probably.
Ah.
But yeah, just is there a modern equivalent in the West, and like whether there's a broad sense of something missing or nostalgia or homesickness? Like
Right.
for example, I'll give you an anecdote here. So for me, wherever I've lived in New Zealand, I've felt sort of homesick, not in the sense that I wanted to go back to or live in a certain city or the city I was born in or the city I was raised in or something, but in the sense of like, well, I used, for example, as part of that anecdote, I used to go to church when I was being raised, right? Different churches across different cities as well. And then I sort of found something else, like as you know, like a sort of support community for men and among men, sort of like, and also it's like ultimately, which became like a self-development community, right? And and I've never really felt that anything really has replaced that sense, because it does give you a feeling of belonging, and a strong feeling of like being a part of something,
Mm.
um
Part of a tribe.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I think
Mm.
it's why maybe it's like Fight Club are so appealing in a way, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like a group of men coming to beat each other up, but there's something primal about it, and there's something about like coming together and
Yeah,
belonging in a group where you have some sort of common purpose or goal, and you
yeah,
feel fucking
yeah.
emotional because you're
Yeah.
being the shit out of each other.
Yeah, I disagree sometimes with that characterization that
Oh, okay.
men are not emotional. Yeah, you know, the common thematic one is like toxic masculinity causes us to repress our emotions. I would say, one, we don't express our emotions exactly like women and everyone else. Anyway, we express our
Mm.
emotions in our own unique way. That's definitely, I would say, like a big part of it. But I wouldn't say there's nothing to the idea that men don't sort of stand back and hold out on their emotions. But I think it's just trying to aim for too much, because men are emotional. I see it in different I've seen in different contexts. I'll give you an example. This is a really silly example, but for example, if you watch some animes or read comments of men on anime videos, they might be music videos, they might be videos of a certain story. It's incredible. Like men are like for example, I've seen for example even in like a gym workout with like a anime centered characters, and I've saw like hundreds, if not thousands, of men typing things like, "Man, I was working out in the gym, and man, I was hearing these words because I've never had a father in my life, and it was like he was speaking life to me." And it was like I just started crying. I just started bawling, and I've seen like hundreds and thousands of
Oh,
these
really?
comments, man. Yeah, like literally
Interesting.
thousands of
I've
them.
not seen them. You got to
Yeah,
show me
man. It's
them sometime.
yeah. No, for example, bro culture. You know, like with old Ziz and Connor Murphy and such. Like
Mm.
obviously there is a lot of that, but there's also a side of masculinity that is extremely like when you bring out the father in men, and you bring out like men's instinct to like protect and provide and to serve the other and so forth, like and to there's so many obviously spiritual themes here, but when they do come into play, man, men get emotional.
Mm.
Men get emotional. They just don't get emotional necessarily about the same things
That woman do.
that women do, but
Yeah.
they can as well. Like obviously we share some things in common we get emotional about, but obviously it's not, I'm not saying that we like necessarily committed to something like essentialism or constructionism. There's obviously debates in these areas about like how much of us is biological, how much is construction, and yeah, you know, I'm not necessarily getting into that, but we do know in society that there are fundamental differences that are, if not biological, they are, you know, they are constructions, they are conditioned among us and upon us, right?
Mm.
And so because of that, we do process cognitive experience and emotions differently between the men and the woman, and that's why I think that results in like some commonality and some differences in where and when we get emotional and why we get emotional.